The floor is now open if anyone has any questions. Harry?
Thanks. I just wanted to ask our Japanese friend what the political situation was that allowed heat not burn to be promoted and sold, but not e-cigarettes.
As I explained, this is not the political issue, but the conflict between the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Health and Labor and Welfare. So they just having a discussion, probably having discussion, but because tobacco sales and taxes covered by the Ministry of Finance, but the regulation of healthcare is covered by the MOHW. And because the nicotine itself will be considered as the medicine, if we try to launch the e-cigarette, it is going to be considered as a medicine, which cannot be controlled by the MOF, I mean the Ministry of Finance. It's going to be the conflict for the moment. But we will be having a discussion with these two ministries in the future. That's what we are hoping now.
I'm Michael Joseph. I'm a public health management professional by training and practice. I work for Alliance for Innovation, and now I also do a research support by KSC on civil society involvement in harm reduction in India. So we had very fascinating presentations. So my question to Carl may be relevant to others as well, but primarily to Carl, what was from Iceland experience, what was the starting point of this engagement with various actors and policymakers? And then you also showed the evidence generations. So where did you start for the evidence generation, and how did you collect this real-time data of different harm reduction use and its applications?
I'm not quite sure I understand the whole point, but I'll try. You'll correct me if I miss something. What did start? Well, I don't think it has ever started. It has been ever going in prohibition and prejudice and stigmatizing people with smoking. It started for me. I saw two of my colleagues. I had never thought of going into tobacco or anti-tobacco or vaping discussion before, but I saw two of my colleagues. I hope you're asking the right question for my answer. Lying about misperception, and I'm a little sensitive guy, a doctor many years. I don't like doctors lying to people, especially not in the public. That's a simple thing. So I went, after I had written my first article of 10 or 20, I can't remember how many, in the papers. Before I published my first, I had my 5 days ethical thinking. I knew I would be executed. I knew I would put my head under the guillotine, of course. And it's all true. I even got a paper, nice paper, threat from WHO. Cease and desist. Stop, or we'll send you a few bunch of lawyers. Well, the first thing I did was publish it, of course. I don't know. Cecilia names tipping point. I don't see a tipping point. I see a tsunami. This is unavoidable for the TCs or tobacco control. They will just have to follow. They can't stop anything. This is a tsunami. That's my opinion. There were some other things I didn't answer. I'm sorry about that.
I think it will happen where you have alternatives. But in countries where you don't have alternatives, it will take a much longer time. I agree with you. It's bound to happen because it's a rational thing. And I'm coming back to regulation, because if you have a good regulation, if you have a good regulatory system, that will allow for the consumers to make the decision, him or herself. And if you have bad regulation, it's going to take longer time, but eventually we will get there.
I agree. And the worst thing, it's terrible really to hear, these are just human rights. This is so simple. This is not complicated. This is basic human rights for people to choose an alternative, a healthier one, period.
Can I say? Also, it might happen where you do not expect it to happen. Because, for example, in middle-income countries, India, I don't know, Mexico, their law and the health institutions and law work in a much more chaotic environment, much more moved by politics and things like that. On the other hand, in rich countries, the tobacco control and health institutions and so on are much more stable. And they have a different history from the institutions in our countries, right? So I cannot say, I'm not a prophet, don't have a magic ball, whatever, but it might happen even in countries, in contexts where you do not expect, because we're dealing with an unpredictable phenomenon. It's a disruptive technology. It disturbs the way tobacco control has been operating. And these disruptive phenomena are unpredictable. We really don't know where it might happen. It might happen in our countries and not in their countries, probably.
Okay, we have time for one more question.
Hi, this is Mark speaking. I'm from the Germany, from the German Vapers Association. First of all, thanks to all of you to your presentation. I heard several times that one of our problems from all the consumers is that there is a big misinformation in the society. And this is what we also recognized, and we try to fight against this by making good information, for example, in form of videos and something like these parts. My question to you all is, especially to you, Colin, yeah, but also to the other members. Can you give us as a consumer, can you give us some tips what we could do as a consumer to change this information, to make better information to the society and also to the doctors and to the medical side of it, and also to the political side? Do you have some tips for us?
Yeah, look, we formed a registered charity which we feel has some credibility. So we have academics and doctors, addiction specialists on our board, and we have no conflicts of interest, so we're not in an industry organisation. And so I think we have the opportunity to challenge sensational headlines, disseminate positive research, promote positive messages, and I think as an organisation we do have some credibility, and the message is more accepted by the media, and it will get through. And we feel the message, the solution is going to be through the hearts and minds of the consumers and the public, who will put the pressure on the politicians. And in our experience, there's this closed shop of all the public health people who are fighting the enemy still, and they've kind of taken their eye off the real goal, which is, as we've discussed, health and death and illness. So, yeah, our target is to present a credible resource which can influence the media and therefore reach the public. And we are getting a whole lot of supportive journalists on side who are assisting us with that. It's a slow process, but definitely making progress.
Yeah, it's a long fight, isn't it?
It is.
It takes time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we can see we're making progress. Like 2 years ago, two or 3 years ago for us, the agenda was totally run by the public health organisations. Now we get at least as much air, and probably more so. And there's more pressure on the MPs. They're getting, the journalists are saying, well, can't you see this is obvious? Why are you resisting it? They're feeling more and more pressure.
Mm-hmm. And a compliment to that, I mean, there is a lot of misconceptions around our products as well, and it's a very tedious work, but you really need to hold people accountable. The organizations, there's a lot of letter writing, phoning people saying, hey, you're actually wrong, can you back this up, what's your proof? And it's and in a company we have people dealing with that. But if you're a consumer, as much as you can, just ask the questions: where did you get this data? Why are you saying this? Because they have, if they're lying, they should be held accountable. Can't lie. That's bad.
Yes, but they're used to not being challenged. That's the issue. For 20 years, and this is the issue of the disruption. It was a complete monopoly of the science and of the objectivity and so on, and they were probably challenged by libertarians or in a but now they're being challenged scientifically, and they're not used to it. And so it is common in modes of thinking that become too I don't know, like cult-like and so on. Monopole destroys this type of thinking. They've lost innovation, and now they're being challenged they're not used to, and it's a matter of time.
I don't know if you saw my last slide. It was a simple answer, in fact, to your... What? So, yeah, okay, thanks. There's a keyhole. The key is, I've been in front of discussing with my colleagues. I've been expelled from 1,600 Icelandic doctors because the opposition or the anti-colleagues, well, what you call them, well, they had me expelled. Well, I tried to talk to the colleagues. I know I have reached to a lot of them because they come to me with just under four eyes. Totally agree with you, but I'm afraid of speaking, or don't mention it. But we have the colleagues. Don't waste your time on talking to the colleagues. They'll take it from the newspaper as the public. Talk to the public with usual words. Science, and people know, they feel it. They feel when you're right, if you're talking about the rights. And they choose. It's a simple thing. Inform the public, not waste your time on the politicians. I've been involved in the politicians. 2 days ago, we had the bill through the parliament in Iceland, as I showed you. But this is hard work and many months and no sleep. And a lot of talking. So, but that's the later stage, because they followed. They cited, even in the discussion in the parliament earlier on, they've been citing me, what I have written. Based on the guys I love you from UK. Yeah. I use science. This is all ours. This science is ours. And we just let the people know in their words. They choose. Key, simple, inform the public. That's my last slide.
Okay, we've run over, but we're going to keep going.
I'm just going to make one quick comment, which is that in Australia what we've found is really useful is to get the vapors to tell their stories, because I think that human face and that heart-rending story, and also to visit their members of parliament. Trouble is we find it very hard to get them involved because it's illegal to vape in Australia, but I think if you can put a human face to these sorts of numbers, I think that's very powerful.
All right, can we all thank our speakers and thank you?